Hello. All right, so I'm going to do a quick little lesson real fast. All right, so this is for a friend on one of my forums and stuff like that for Yamaha guitars. I'm playing the Steinberger in this particular moment, but whatever. The chord progression they gave me was a B to an A and to a G to an F sharp, pretty much a power chord. I was trying to explain to him that sometimes what really happens to people when they're playing in these type of configurations and they really haven't soloed and done a lot of composition yet, and they don't really know what key they're playing in, they don't know a couple of different things that they really need to know before they get started on writing solos. Now, you can write anything you want. The thing that I've learned is that if you record yourself, like actually playing the solo, and then you play it back, and then you try to record and you try to play it note for note again, if you can't do it, it's not written. And if you can't write it and you can't play it note for note, then you can't improve on it. And if you can't remember it, then good luck. You know, so you've got to be able to perform it live, you've got to be able to record it in the studio, and you want to make sure that it's timed right and everything else. Now, they say if you can play it like you were improvising and it feels natural, but you obviously want to play it like it's written as well. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but you'll find a balance one day in between. But when I first started writing music back in the day, and I started not really understanding very much about music theory, my chord progression started becoming so busy that the faster I changed the chords, like if I did this, it's very hard to write any kind of melody over that because the chords are moving almost melodically. So in those type of situations where you're doing a fast chord progression, where you're doing like, you can do kind of like a pedal lick, which is like a, kind of stays the same while the chords kind of move underneath it. I'll play some in the background that I kind of came up with, but I will have the best tip that I can tell anybody that's doing this kind of stuff is the best solos will come from the best rhythms. If the rhythm is kind of, you can't really imagine something so much over that kind of a rhythm, but if you were to play something like a, it's got groove, it makes your head nod, so you can be a, just whatever the chord progression we come up with. And you can find if you're playing on the top part of the strings, there's really nothing that you can play over the top to mix in the chords. And what I mean by this is here's a B on the 7th fret as a power chord, but if I play the same chord down here on the 2nd fret on the A string, then I can actually double my finger over and get that low, you know, the 5 in the bass, and get that nice heavy that you can't get here. Versus, it's got a lot more meat to it. Plus, you can, instead of, like if I was going to go to the B to the G, it's just changing chords completely. But if I did a B here, then I could put my middle finger on the 3rd fret on the E string, and then I've got this kind of split G-B chord, which is very cool to pedal off of, like. And you get these really awesome sounding chords that sound a lot more contemporary than just the standard power chords. Now there's nothing wrong with power chords. You can still do a lot of cool stuff with power chords, but you can also do extensions of those power chords to where they become other things completely. So if you're doing something like this, you get the idea. Okay. So this is the backing track that I kind of put together. This is what it's going to sound like. And all it is the same chord progressions, but I put a lot more kind of play to it so you can kind of hear it. Nice big throaty sound. Now when you're learning your chord progression, by the way, that was just a B chord, power, with my pinky extended to the 11th fret for that B, which makes it a kind of a 9th chord. And it's actually suspended without the major or the minor tone in it, but that's how you get those cool Dream Theater. Anyways, that's kind of just a very cool. It just sounds cool to me. Anyways, my particular ears go for that flavor. So, now, the scales, and if you don't know what key you're playing in sometimes, what you should definitely do is try to commit to at least just one scale. This note here is this note here. Oops, sorry. And then it's here. And it's here. And it's here. So you can play it in many different places. So you don't have to know the entire scale range on the entire guitar to get something done. And if you learn that, if you can play this phrase, play it 1 octave higher. So 1 octave higher. It's all the same thing. Also the same muscle memory. So if you learn this, then you can play here. You get the idea. Then you can tie them together, put some slides in between them. Then it becomes this really simple thing. And then you can make it more complicated. But it's still pretty much the same, but you're still doing these little blocks. Now I've taken these blocks from, say, the pentatonic scale, which is this. The standard ubiquitous minor pentatonic scale. But I've divided them into 3 different groups. The first 2 strings, which are going to be the E and the A. So it's kind of a first to pinky, first to ring finger. And that's that group. Do it an octave higher. Do an octave higher. So anything that you do with that particular group, even that flat 5, you can do here. So that group now can be a ton of different things. Alright, just using that block. Now the next block would be the ones in the center, which is just ring, ring. But the cool part is the flat 5 for that is right there. So that's where that so that's that. Okay? And then the last block, whichever you have, does all the bends on, is just this last group. You can use your ring finger, whatever you want. And that's just a million different things that you can do with that. That's the bends. Do it down here. And it's a little harder to get down here, but it's... And then you can start chaining these things together, because if you realize that starts, that's down here, which is the part of this block. Then you had this block, which is down in this section on these same type of strings, which was this middle section. And so you've got this, and then you got your first 2 of that section. So you tie those together. Okay, so anyways, that's just those blocks of those type of things. Now when you learn the minor scales, you can put all that stuff in there so you can play your pentatonic licks, but you can also play the all the notes that combine. So I'm just going to do a little quick solo here. Just got to wrap things up, and then I'm going to send this out to my buddy. So here's an example of what we can do over it. If you can say it, you can play it. So you can do something melodic. You can even do some cool. Say this to make a point. I don't remember what I did. So if I didn't record it, I'd be screwed. I was just wanking around. There were some good ideas there. There was a couple of different things that I guarantee I would have wished I would have been like, damn, I should have kept that. Or should have recorded that, because I just don't remember what I did. So it's very, very important that you record your stuff while you're playing, because you get to listen to it back. But I also do make this point. Don't record for 20 minutes, because you will not want to come back there, and it's just too much. You know, you'll get sick of your own playing, and you just don't want to hear anything. But if you record small little chunks, there's melodic ideas, there could be good scale ideas, could be lick ideas, phrases, all sorts of things you can pick up. And then you have to kind of learn what you did. So you got to be able to repeat it. And if you repeat it, then you can turn it into a solo that is something that's well written, and you can even improve over years and years and years. And I love to steal little licks for myself from certain solos. I forgot, like, how there was a cool little, like, say, for example, open B. You know, something I forgot to do. There's just a technique. So let's try that again and just do an open string B thing. Happen. You get the idea. But you just work out different things. Say some pedal tone stuff, or maybe some cool. Let's try something like that. Speed for me. I'm used to doing figure turn into mush right now, but anyways, there's a lot of different ways to do this, but first off, kind of understand where you're going to be at, and you can kind of stay in this area without having to leave very much. the idea. I know it's a little bit quick, a little bit long-winded and everything like that, but at the same point in time, you should be able to fly through some of this stuff if you just kind of stick to one area and make sure that you write your melodies. I think that it'll work out really well for you. So best of luck. If you have some questions, please leave them in the comments. I guess I'll get up now.